country. How do you respond to this Trump administration narrative that they've created about you?
No, I mean, this is an administration that spreads hate. This is an administration that actually embrace the actual anti-Semites, that supports the neo-Nazi parties across Europe. To come and claim that my presence here is about anti-Semitism, it's not. You know, I'm here to support Palestinian rights, the fundamental rights of the Palestinian people for their self-determination and liberation. And again, we told them we want to see them in court, and that's what they don't want to do. They want to take this case into immigration court, which they fully control. So we don't have to present, or they don't have to present any evidence. And as Judge Young yesterday in another case in Massachusetts said, that what happened in this case is essentially an unconstitutional conspiracy between Rubio himself and Neom, the Secretary of Homeland Security, to pick up certain people, to twist the laws, and to go after people they don't like. This is a judge, a Reagan appointee judge, who said that they're conspiring to do that, to make an example out of me, so they chill the speech of everyone in this country, regardless of their status.
So you were the first of the students to be arrested. Then there was Mohsen Madawi, who's now a Columbia graduate student. There was Reza Ozturk, who was a Tufts graduate student, all released. You have filed a $20 million lawsuit against the Trump administration, claiming you were falsely imprisoned, maliciously prosecuted, deliberately smeared. And in the case, Judge William Young called Mr. Trump an authoritarian and said the administration's actions targeting non-citizen student protesters violated the First Amendment. That decision only applies to members of two academic organizations in the case. If you can respond to that, Bahar, and Mahmoud, if you can respond to this lawsuit that you have filed against the Trump administration. Start with Mahmoud.
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeking accountability for all the injustices that happened against me and against other students. And this administration needs to pay for all these lawless actions that they are committing. So this is just like one action towards that end. And this is why they are retaliating against me, because I'm also standing up against their actions, and they don't like that. They want people to just submit to their authoritarian practices and to their lawlessness, which I will not make that happen. I will continue my advocacy until Palestine is free.
How do you keep Mahmoud Khalil free, Bahar?
Well, just to reassure everyone, this decision taking away jurisdiction from the district court doesn't immediately go into effect. So the order releasing him is still in effect and will be in effect until the appeals process is exhausted. And we have a number of legal options to continue to seek to revise or reverse this split 2-to-1 decision, which comes over a very persuasive dissent and which is contrary to decisions in other courts of appeals. But ultimately, Judge Young is right. This is an authoritarian action by this government. He also talked about how Rubio and others have a fear of freedom. Imagine being so cowardly and ashamed of the First Amendment that rather take on the speech that you disagree with, you try and imprison those who dissent from U.S. foreign policy. That's the classic kind of extrajudicial detention or arbitrary detention that's the hallmark of autocratic regimes.
But Bahar, this whole issue of Judge Young's decision on the free speech rights of non-citizens, the appeals panel claiming that he lacked subject matter jurisdiction. Could you explain the logic of that?
Yeah. So to be clear, the appeals court the headquarters in Philadelphia did not take on the illegality of the detention, which basically every court that has reviewed this policy has found unconstitutional. It's cited a technical jurisdictional provision of the immigration laws to say that the federal court, which is a constitutional court, cannot hear these claims. It has to be put through the immigration process and the immigration courts. But what people need to understand is the immigration courts are not real courts. They're part of the executive branch. That's why we wanted our constitutional claims to be heard in a real court, a real constitutional court. And, you know, that's where these kind of constitutional claims can be, not in a court that rubber stamps the executive branch's policies.
Just going to end this segment with New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani posting on social media, quote, "Last year's arrest of Mahmoud Khalil was more than just a chilling act of political repression. It was an attack on all of our constitutional rights. Now, as the crackdown on pro-Palestinian free speech continues, Mahmoud is being threatened with rearrest. Mahmoud is free and must remain free," the mayor of New York City said. That's Zohran Mamdani. Your final response, Mahmoud Khalil, as you sit here in New York City, now a free man.
You know, I would say, like, all these attempts are just to really distract us from what's really happening, which is Israel genocide in Gaza and Israel's action against Palestinians in whole of Palestine, and also to distract from the fact that this administration just 2 days ago sent $3.3 billion to Israel from our money, from our tax money. And this is why I was protesting, and this is why I will continue to protest.
Palestinian activist and Columbia University graduate Mahmoud Khalil, and Bahar Azmi, legal director of the Center for Constitutional Rights. Coming up, we speak to the Palestinian-American director and actress Shireen Dabi. Stay with us. Rhythm of Love by Ahmed Ali Arslan. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. We turn now to a feature film that looks at 7 decades of Palestinian history through the lens of one family's experience over 3 generations, beginning in 1948. The film is All That's Left of You by the Palestinian-American director and actress Shireen Dabi. The film is Jordan's official entry for the International Feature Oscar. It's been shortlisted. This is the trailer.
We should go home.
Why, are you scared?
No one ever thought any of this would happen. I'm here to tell you how it started.
I am the sea. In my depths, all treasures dwell.
They take your land, your money. Call this a life? Don't be foolish, son.
Get on the ground. Get on the ground.
I wanted to protect you. I was afraid for you.
As long as Dad is here, you don't have to be scared.
What use are we as parents if we can't protect our kids?
Your humanity is also resistance. Don't forget the power of your humanity. It's the one thing no one can take away from you.
I wanted to explain why we are here. What my family went through.
That was the trailer for the film All That's Left of You. Appearing in the film is the renowned Palestinian and actor and director Mohammed Bakari, who died in December at the age of 72. Bakari appears in the film alongside his sons Adam and Saleh, who are also actors. This is a clip from the film depicting a loving and playful interaction between a grandfather, Mohammed, and a grandson, played by Sanad Akabareti.
The military invasion of Lebanon, known as Operation Litani, and the following massacres.
What's the rush? Can't even greet your grandpa, your sweetheart, your best friend? Who else do you have?
Because it is the core of the problem.
What a crazy family. I smell the scent of a human.
Grandpa.
Grandpa.
I'm too old for that game.
Too old. You? With Grandpa, you can never grow up, especially not with this game. Take it back. Take it back. Take it back.
No.
Take it back.
Okay, I take it back.
How was school?
Boring.
I had a feeling you'd say that. That's why I have a surprise for you.
A clip from the film All That's Left of You, featuring the late, great actor Mohammed Bakari, who passed away in December. We're joined now in the studio by the film's director and star, Shireen Davis. It's great to have you with us, Shireen. What a powerful film. It's opening in New York in 3 theaters. It's now there. You're doing the Q&As in all these theaters at the Angelica and New Plaza, as well as Kips Bay and Los Angeles and San Francisco, and opening all over the country. Tell us the story, this multi-generational narrative that is so critical to understand today.
Well, the story follows one Palestinian family and traces really love and loss over 3 generations, from 1948 until almost the present day. And really, it's the story about how history shapes us. It's about how political events shape people and change relationships within family, and really change the fates of families. That's really the story. But I think at its heart, it's really about the extraordinary will that it takes to survive political turmoil and personal loss. And, if you want to probe even deeper, I think it's really about choosing our humanity, looking for meaning in grief, and choosing humanity even in the most difficult of circumstances, which Palestinians have done and do every single day. But, for some reason, the world just never gets to see that.
And Shireen, you began shooting this film in the occupied West Bank before October 7, 2023. But then after the Hamas attack and Israel's launching of a genocidal war on Gaza, you continued to film in the West Bank, even as Israeli attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank escalated. Could you talk about the impact on your crew as you were doing this filming and the war was continuing to expand in Gaza?
Well, we actually evacuated shortly after the events of October the 7th. We were based in Ramallah at that time. We had prepped the entire film. We had spent months working with a huge crew on the ground in Palestine. I had foreign crew who had arrived in Palestine in early October of 2023. And really within days of October the 7th, things became extremely tense. West Bank cities and towns were being sealed off, checkpoints were closing, and it was clear that we weren't going to be able to move around. My foreign crew wanted to evacuate. Their families were worried. They were scared. And so by October the 10th, we were forced to evacuate. At that point, we went to Cyprus, where we had always planned to shoot a small part of the film. And we decided to start with that small part and, thinking perhaps we can then return to Palestine. But, the situation continued to escalate, which forced us to make a decision. We either delay the film and wait to return to Palestine, or we continue making it and, we go to Jordan. And we decided to continue. We had a lot of momentum. And we didn't want to delay in getting this important story out, knowing everything that was happening. One of the most challenging things, I think, was really making a movie about what was happening as it was happening. We found ourselves making this film about the ongoing Nakba as we're witnessing an even bigger Nakba. And it was like life and art were merging, and we were suddenly shooting scenes that we were witnessing come out of Gaza. And that took a huge emotional toll on all of us. It was extremely, challenging and painful. But in many ways, the film became a container for our love, for our compassion, for our grief, and we just poured ourselves into it. And in that way, the film was really such a gift to be able to create at a time of such devastating destruction.
And can you talk about, this film is released as Mohammed Bakari dies, one of the stars in your film, a man you have worked with, his whole family. Salah, we've had on Democracy Now! As well, his son who stars in this, Adam, his son, what it meant for this to come out in the aftermath of his death, but also the moral dilemma at the heart of the film. It's a spoiler alert, so I won't say what it is.
Well, I will say, working with Mohammed was such an honor for me. I had been a huge fan for so long. He's a giant of Palestinian cinema. His 5-decade spanning career really happened alongside the creation of Palestinian cinema, the rise of Palestinian cinema, and he's sort of one of the founders of that. And I had been just a longtime admirer, had always wanted to work with him, such a fan of his kids as well. 5 out of 6 of them are actors. And so there's this, Palestinian family acting dynasty. And as I was casting this intergenerational portrait, it was my dream to really cast an actual family in these roles. Working with Mohammed was just amazing. He's so disciplined. He's so rigorous. He's so committed. He has more integrity than anyone I've ever met. And he just was so there and present. And the kind of actor who, I would call cut and he would say, no, let's do it again. Let's do it again. I can do better. Just always really striving to kind of be his best. And you can see that in his work and the immense depth and nuance and humanity and humor that he brings to the film. I'm so happy that he actually got to tap into that talent of his, because he hadn't gotten to do a lot of comedy. He did come to our European premiere where he saw the film for the very first time this summer, and he just was so proud of the film.
Well, we're going to continue this conversation. We want folks to go to democracynow.org to see it. Shireen Dayabas, Palestinian-American director, producer, screenwriter, actress. Her feature film, All That's Left of You, has been shortlisted for an Oscar. It's opening around the country. It's in New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco now. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
Many people make KPFK's programs possible, each giving what they can to help ensure the station's future. One way to help is by donating land or other property that you no longer need. Learn more about the advantages to KPFK and to you of donating real estate at kpfk.org.
Hi, this is the Corin Tucker Band, and you're listening to KPFK 90.7 FM Los Angeles, 98.7 FM Santa Barbara, and all over the world at kpfk.org.
Hotep, Grand Rising, good morning. This is Cut to the Chase. My name is Sly Rivers, and we have a show today. So I have to talk fast because we got a lot to going on. We have a very special guest. We'll get to him a little later, not too much later, because I want to deal with one thing first. But our guest is the creator of the Empower Technology Mastery System. He is an anomaly, an international consultant, a transformation scientist, empowerment specialist. I'm going to even tell you a little bit more about him a little later. But before we get to our special guest, I would like to just go over some stuff that I think is so important that's going on internationally, specifically Iran. That people cut to the chase, as you know, I say this is one of the only programs you hear alternative views, literally alternative views, that you don't hear anywhere else, including, I would say, on Pacifica. So I just want to go this, and then we'll get to our special guest, Sadiki Bakari. What's going on? As you know, there's what's going on in Iran it's not new. It is not new what's going on in Iran. Because I'm going back into the 50s. Beneath Iran's soil became the property of the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, owned principally by the British government. So the Iran oil was owned by the British government. Then came in Mossadegh, who said he wanted to nationalize the oil. He was most famous for denouncing British ownership of his country's oil industry, but in the 50s he found another audacious foreign project to oppose, the 7-year development plan that Alan Dulles, this is from the book, I'm reading from the book, The Brothers, which we had this gentleman, the author, on before. We have him back, Stephen Kinzer. So he was found another audacious foreign project to oppose the 7-year development plan Allen had negotiated for overseas consultants. Okay, now move on because we have to really get to it. I want to get to our guest. So let's move forward on this book called The Brothers. Now, and it'll all make sense to you shortly. Old friend Henry Luce put each of the brothers on the cover of Time, I guess that's Time magazine during this time. And Alan, that's Alan Dulles, one of the Dulles brothers, established discreet contact with owners, publishers, and editors of influential daily newspapers, magazines, and broadcast networks. Among his regular collaborators were William Paley of CBS, Arthur Hayes Silsberg of the New York Times, oh boy, Alfred Friendly, what a name, of the Washington Post, and James Copley of Copley News Services. Through them and through journalists who were veterans of the Office of War Information, the U.S. government's official propaganda arm during World War II, he regularly planted stories about foreign countries and their leaders. By one account, he could pick up the phone and edit a breaking story, make sure an irritating foreign correspondent was yanked from the field. Years later, it became clear that Allen's efforts to influence the American press were not casual or episodic, but part of a multifaceted project called Operation Mockingbird. Operation Mockingbird. Now, before we get to Sadiki, good morning, brother. I just want you to listen to this and we'll get to you. Well, I want to play a clip by Professor. Now, we're going to be talking about AI with Sadiki Bakari, but I want to play this clip by Mohammed Morandi. He lives in Iran. That's the only voice I heard coming out of Iran. Everything else is, as some people say, even AI'd. But this is Professor, it's like 4 minutes, Professor Mohammed Morandi he was on the Electronic Intifada cast. So we're going to listen to him, and then we're going to get into our main topic of today, which is AI. So here's Professor Mohammed Morandi. Now check this out, because everything you hear is not correct. When I first saw this whole demonstrations in Iran, I said, something's funny about this. But here, okay, let's listen to go ahead, hit it, Mohammed Morandi.
The New York Times, first of all, or Reuters in particular, because Reuters began this whole thing about anonymous Iranian officials gave these numbers of deaths. Reuters has a history of lying. Whenever they have unnamed officials, they're lying. And I have personal experience because during the nuclear negotiations, Reuters was constantly quoting officials and saying things that were not true because I knew they were not true, because I was involved. I was the media advisor to the team. I was on Piers Morgan yesterday, but on the show, I gave them footage to show. I said, I want you to show this footage. And it was helicopter footage of Monday's mass rallies in support of the state, in support of the Constitution, in support of the leader, and against the riots. And it was across the country. Every city had its own. The first day, we had a sudden fall in the currency. And that was because the Americans were manipulating the markets from abroad in neighboring countries. And that's why people think that this was all a part of the plan. After the currency fell, shop owners and business people, like a few thousand, a couple, here and there in different cities, combined a few thousand, went to the streets and protested to the central bank for good reason, because they were saying, we sell our goods and then the goods that we have to buy with the profit are now more expensive and we can't do it and we'll go bankrupt. There are no arrests, nothing happened. And then I think basically from day 3-ish, on day 3, these rioters came in. Now, Pompeo, the former head of the CIA, said that in his tweet that Mossad is on the ground. Yeah. This is all about Palestine. But Iran is evil and sinister because it opposes the genocide. So Pompeo says that Mossad is there. The Mossad says that they are there because they put out a Persian language statement. And I think the Jerusalem Post also said something about this, saying that they're on the ground. And then I think just yesterday, Channel 14 of Israel, the Israeli regime, said that foreign countries are giving weapons. Then the United States and the elites in the United States are in no position to talk about rioters who killed 300 to 400, but let's say 300 officers of the law, Basij, riot police, and guards. So you can kill people in Iran. You can bomb the country. You can send in terrorists. You can openly advocate terrorism, and then the media will deny all of it, just like with Gaza. But none of this makes sense. The only reason why it makes sense to these pundits in the West and these so-called Iran experts and the media is that it's negative. Anything bad about Iran makes sense. People in Iran see that Mossad is involved. Does anyone in their right mind in the West think that the popular opinion in Iran supports the Mossad and their involvement in Iran? They support CIA involvement in Iran. They support the threat of strikes and attack against Iran. But the belief in Tehran, or at least the belief among many, is that this whole episode was to bring us to war. The Americans manipulated the currency, sparking protests, and these groups that were pre-prepared infiltrated and then caused riots and violence, and a lot of people died, including a lot of innocent people who were just going to work or coming home from work. And then the Americans can be pushed to war.
Ooh, that was the clip. That was the whole clip. Wow. So there you have it. He's saying that the Israeli intelligence services in Iran, a lot of people are being killed, but it was not by the first wave of peaceful protesters. It's by these infiltrators. And I heard on the Democracy Now! They were talking about infiltrators killing or messing with ICE. Anyway, so I just wanted to do that before we get into our main topic today, which is AI. And because people haven't heard that side of the story. And then, as you heard, millions of people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people were out marching for pro-Iranian government. The pro-Iranian government. So, okay, let's pivot. I just wanted to hear that, share that with you, because I don't know if KPFK listeners have heard that. You know, this is where you come to hear the truth about what's really going on. And the only person in Iran that I know of is Mohammad Marandi. Everybody else is telling you a lie. Sadiki Bakari, like I said, is the creator of Empowered Technology. We're going to talk about AI. His methods are authentically profound and scholarship unparalleled. Bakari is considered the authority of spiritual technology, transhumanism, and artificial intelligence as it interfaces with the nexus and future of human experience and transformation. Sadiki Bakari, welcome to Cut to the Chase.
Greetings, brother. Greetings, greetings. Thank you for having me.
Man, I'm so happy that you made it here. This time, we're in amazing times, and you've been doing a whole lot. I guess you've been on KPFK before. You haven't been on Cut to the Chase before. You've been around. A lot of people are, you have many books and information, and you're dealing with AI. So I want to start out by how did you start this? When and why? And did you start this whole rabbit hole down AI?
Well, I started researching probably, I'm going to say 30 years ago, consistently, 30 years ago. So initially, my main focus was African history as well as psychology, but mainly Black psychology or African psychology. And I studied many other things along the way, hip hop in the music industry, metaphysics, a lot of different topics, right? And in doing that, what I saw was we didn't really have anyone dealing with AI, transhumanism, and things of that nature from an African center. I only saw it from centers that were outside of our own perspectives, and I found that problematic, being that if you are dealing with artificial intelligence and technology, the first people you'd have to deal with would be African people to begin with. So that primarily is what put me on that path. I sent my earlier work to Ashra Kwesi. Ashra Kwesi is one of the greatest, not only African historians, but historians that is alive today. He reviewed the work, and he felt it was something that I should continue to do, and it was a lane that did not exist really for us as Black people or African people. So I just I took his wisdom and I focused on it, and that's primarily been my focus for the last 18 to 20 years.
So you said it was a lane that specifically Black people shouldn't be on. Why? What made you come to that conclusion?
Well, in dealing with research, I didn't see research from our people dealing with AI and in many different aspects of technology. Not consistent research. It may be someone who does a presentation here and there, but when we start talking about consistent scholarship platforms and things of that nature, that really deals with AI and the many different forms of technology. So, for example, there were many white scholars and scientists and people of other fields who were dealing with AI and these other aspects of technology, but obviously we weren't really included in that conversation. And again, if there is going to be a conversation about anything, Africans should be part of that conversation and on the forefront of that conversation.
Right. So what have you found? Give us some of the AI is big. It's going on all over. Some people say it's good. Some people say it's bad. Some people say that it's corrupting minds. So what give us start at your basics as you go into this AI. It's taking over. What's the effect on jobs? I know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that it's taking away jobs and is it mind control? Talk to us.
Well, it's everything that you just mentioned. It's all of the above. But let's start here. Let's give some real context to this. When we deal with AI, when we deal with virtual reality, the internet, and many different forms of technology, first and foremost, we are the technology. Let me make that clear when I say that. We are the technology. So artificial intelligence, let's give a definition. Now, this is not Western's definition. This is my definition. I've done the research and I've earned the right to define things for myself. All right. So when we deal with AI, artificial intelligence, we are talking about the mimicking of an original intelligence, an archetypal intelligence, a primordial intelligence. Now, what intelligence am I talking about? I'm talking about humans, Africans. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about intuition. I'm talking about imagination. I'm talking about nature. I'm talking about the cosmos. These are original archetypal primordial aspects of intelligence. All right. So artificial intelligence attempts to mimic these types of intelligence. All right. Including the soul, including the spirit, things of that nature. So when we talk about algorithms, when we talk about binary codes, we are the original algorithm. We are the original binary code. When we talk about algorithms, we talk about rhythm. Okay. This is how you are able to blink. This is how you're able to walk. This is how you have coordination. This is how you're able to think. So this is the original intelligence that is being mimicked by artificial intelligence. There is no artificial intelligence without an original intelligence. We're that intelligence. Let's make that very clear. Also, you mentioned mind control. This is important in understanding where we are at this point. There's a huge media programming from a standpoint of ushering people into or enrolling in people into artificial intelligence or technology. Now, there's many reasons for that. And people are going to have to do research to understand a lot of the things that I'll be saying on the show. All right. So narratives are being created. The future is now, all these different types of narratives. If you don't get involved in AI, you're going to be left behind, all these different things. So my question would always be, how long have we been on this planet without this notion of AI as we see it today? How long have we been here? Right? So that's the question people can grapple themselves. Thousands of years, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years, and so on and so forth, whatever that number ends up being. There was no what we consider artificial intelligence as we see it today, and we were just fine. All right. Now, when you deal with artificial intelligence, also what's important is who's controlling the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if the technology is going to be an extension of who's controlling it. Now, we create most of the technology. Let me make that clear. Black people, African people create most of this technology. We couldn't be on Zoom if it wasn't for a sister who created the technology to be able to be on this type of a platform. A Black woman created that. So let's be clear about that first and foremost. All right. Now, the control of the technology is not us. That's the reality. So you have to look at who's controlling the technology. What's their mindset? Are they psychopaths? Do they have psychosis? Do they suffer from narcissism? Do they suffer from the many different type of mental ailments that we're going to see in and through the technologies? All right. This is something people have to have a clear understanding of. And in dealing with that, that's how you're going to see the technology being manifested out of the minds, whatever those minds are. All right. So if it's not a spiritual basis or foundation, you're going to see it in a different type of a root and foundation.
Wow. So you're saying it's important to look at who's controlling it.
Absolutely.
So what do you find? I mean, we see there's a lot of aspects of AI.
Yes.
One is jobs. One is, I think I was listening this morning, and they said, or somebody accused in the Iranian thing of AI being used to show more people than it was. So
Yes.
talk about the negative aspects besides those that you said, those who are controlling, and we know who is controlling it.
Yeah.
What are some of the other negative aspects? Oh, by the way, listeners, we're listening to Sadiki Bakari. He's speaking on AI, and yes, you can call and ask him questions at 818-985-5735 in option 1. Sadiki Bakari, he's spiritual technology, what is transhumanism, by the way, before we keep going?
So transhumanism is simply the merging of man and machine. So this is what we see with the different aspects of technology. There is a narrative being pushed for us to for the technology to be imposed on us, so to speak, and for us to merge or interface with the technology. Meaning, when we deal with the internet, when we deal with social media, when we deal with digital phones, when we deal with smart technology, all these different type of technologies, the purpose is to infuse us into that technology. So now that technology becomes part of us, and we becomes part of the technology. Now, again, the technology cannot exist without us. This is a very important point that we talk about. So when you talk about the virtual world, when you talk about virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, when you talk about these different things, they are based off of our interfacing with it, right? Now, it's some other things we can talk about. I'm not going to necessarily get into that when we deal with what these technologies mean, how they're portals, stargates, things of that nature to other worlds, and what that means when we say portals and stargates into those worlds. When we start talking about parasitic type of energy, toxic energy, when we start talking about um, entities and things of that nature. So it's far deeper than what people can ever imagine when we start dealing with it from a standpoint of energy, from a standpoint of obviously you have a spiritual side, but then you have the other side as well that people will call, I guess, demonic, satanic, and things of that nature. Now, that's a totally different conversation, but this is what most people do not understand in regards to what we are being infused or integrated into, which is also a form of transhumanism, which was the question to begin with. So transhumanism is the merging of man and machine. So as we use technologies, that alone is an aspect of transhumanism. Now, a deeper aspect of transhumanism, when we start literally talking about these technologies physically being part of us, all right, whether that's through RFID chips and things of that nature, and other aspects, neural links and other aspects of technology that would literally be part of our bodies, the internet of things, the internet of bodies, and things of that nature. And actually, the human domain is a major part of when we deal with war, right? So when you look at war, cognitive warfare, it's 5 major aspects, and I'm going to give them. So you have air, land, sea, space, and cyber. I'm going to give you those 5 again: air, land, sea, space, and cyber. All right. These are aspects of warfare, mainly cognitive warfare. Now, there's a new domain. That new domain is the human domain. Now, what would that mean when we say human domain? That means that you will be used as a portal, as a gateway, as a stargate for warfare or technology, whether that's through light technology, whether that's through other forms of technology, but our human bodies actually being used as a form of technology for warfare. All right. So I wanted to put that out there for people to understand, because the most important thing, if you don't get anything from this interview today, just make sure you get this. When you deal with technology, technology is military and it's warfare. Every form of technology is military and it's warfare. There is a military aspect to the technology, whether we're dealing with digital phones, whether we're dealing with the internet, whatever type of technology we are dealing with, it is used for war and military. Let's make that very, very clear. All right. So you have a weapon in your hand when you have a digital phone. It can be for you or it could be against you, but it is a weapon and it was created to be a weapon. The internet initially was created in the 50s, all right, by obviously government factions. If I'm not mistaken, it was the CIA. Somebody can correct me on that if it was a different faction of the government. It was created for surveillance and counterintelligence. That was the initial creation for the internet in the 50s. All right. Now, real quickly, when we deal with social media, you deal with Facebook. Facebook was a CIA, FBI operation. So everyone understand the purpose for Facebook: counterintelligence and surveillance. All right, just so everyone is clear, that was the purpose, not to be able to talk to you, to find your grandmother and your grandfather and all of those different things. All right, brother.
Whoa.
It's a lot. It's a
So
lot.
let's back up a little bit.
Yes, sir.
You say war and military.
Absolutely.
War and military. Now let's look at if you have war, you have military. Let's look at the players in this war. What's it for? What's the objective? Who is it against?
Okay.
Yeah. So you say it's war. Who's waging this war against who and why?
Okay. So the government. Now, when you say media, you're talking about the government. All
Okay.
right.
The media, you're talking about the government.
You're talking
And we
about
made that
government.
clear in
There
that
is no
clip, yeah.
separation.
Ooh.
The media is controlled by the government. When you're talking about the educational system, you're talking about government. There is no separation. When you're talking about politics, you're talking about the government. There is no separation. When you're talking about economics, you're talking about the government. There is no separation. When you talk about the judicial system, you're talking about the government. There is no situation. All right. So when we talk about labor, when we talk about law, all these different things, there is no separation from a standpoint of government. When we talk about the internet, the virtual world, there is no separation from government. When we talk about digital phones, there is no separation from government. Just so everyone is clear about that. So even when we talk about the media, this is why I mentioned at the beginning of the interview in regards to narratives. These narratives are narratives that are created by psychologists and people who specialize in advertising and marketing and things of that nature, mind control and how the mind works. This is not separate of the government. All right. So these are things that people need to understand. So again, you are talking about programming, and there's many different types of programming that we can talk about. And that programming is also being used from a standpoint of how this notion of artificial intelligence and technology is being pushed, chat GPT and things of that nature. And I definitely want to make sure we get into chat GPT before we get out of here, because that's something that people do not understand. People have no idea what chat GPT really is, what it's mimicking, why it's mimicking it, and what is the purpose of it. So it's a reason that what you hear all over the internet is I asked chat GPT and chat GPT said. Again, I asked chat GPT and chat GPT said. Well, why do you need to ask chat GPT? You have your own spirit, you have your own soul, you have your own thoughts, you have all of these different things that you have. There's no need to ask an AI operating system. You are the operating system. right? And we'll get into that, and I'll show that and prove that in regards to what I'm talking about. But back to programming and mind control, and I'm gonna lay out some of these different types so people understand. You had the different types of programming. You had the psychological operations in dealing with. I don't know if you can say COVID on here, but dealing with what happened with that some years ago. That was a psychological operation. So you have many psychological operations. Distraction is something that is very prevalent in regards to media and what's taking place and what's happening. And you see it with the president. I don't care who the president is, all of them. It doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican, all of them. We're talking about confirmation bias. We're talking about controlled opposition. We're talking about predictive programming. We're talking about the Hegelian dialectic. We're talking about doublespeak. We're talking about fear-based programming, trauma-based programming, and emotional-based programming. These are all forms of programming. We're talking about Stockholm syndrome. We're talking about brain hacking. We're talking about brainwashing. We're talking about thought reform, information overload. We're talking about all these different aspects of programming, and there's many more. And there's obviously been government factions who billions and trillions of dollars spent just to program the minds of people. So as I always say, the war is on and for your mind. The war is on and for your mind.
Whew. Let me take a quick pause and tell folks that we're talking to Sadiki Bakari about AI, and there are some callers on the line. We will get to you, so just be patient. 818-985-5735, hit option 1. My board up say, ask about Palantir. Is that what that is, Will? He said, ask you about Palantir.
Palantir. I keep hearing about Palantir. I'm going to have to do some more research on that. I know they play a huge role in many things that's behind the curtain, so to speak. All right. But I don't want to do too much speaking on them at the moment because I definitely want to go down that rabbit hole and really deal with them. But I do know that is a name that people need to be familiar with. As I stated, a lot of things behind the curtain, because oftentimes people have no idea who's funding things and all these things that's happening in the world and what that means, the connections, the people, the groups, the organizations, the families, the lineages, and all of those different things. But yeah, that's definitely something that people need to be familiar with. Yes, brother.
Ooh, wow. Let's, before we get to the callers and we're going to pick up you in a second. We've got a full line here. I think people are saying, whoa, this is heavy. There's so much. Let's
is.
Now, you answered one of my questions. My son asked me when did all this AI start, and I told him back in the 50s. So you did mention that the internet started in the 50s. So I guess that would be correct.
Well, you have forms of AI in different periods historically.
Okay.
But in regards to what we're dealing with, that main period, you probably have to go back to the Nazi era when we're dealing with AI. As far as transhumanism, that's probably something that'll go back about a century.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been here. So we really need to understand it's what's called exponential growth. This is what science deals with, exponential growth. So in other words, if you know what happened 100 years ago, and you can create a timeline from that to understand, well, because this happened 100 years ago, this happened 50 years ago. And because that happened 100 years ago and 50 years ago, this is what's happening today. And because those things happened that took us to today, now we can understand where we're headed 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. And this is the reason when we deal with technology, primarily I've said things for the last 20 years, I've yet to be wrong. Those things are happening or they're going to happen based on me understanding exponential growth and being able to understand what's happened, why it's happening, where we are, where it's headed. In other words, it's just Sankofa put in a Western sense. That's all it really is. know the past in order to understand what's going on today, in order to understand what's going to happen in the future. So, for example, racism, discrimination. I've talked about that 15 years ago. I said that the new racism would be technology, um, AI algorithms, that type of thing, binary codes. People said I was crazy. Now, when you look at what's happening, you understand it's quite obvious that racism and discrimination now um, is operating through algorithms, binary codes, and technology. So that's something that's easy to prove. I've done it over and over again. So now, when you look at the face of those things, you're going to be you won't see a face because it's going to be done through technology. It is being done through technology. Let me make that clear. So if people don't understand that, all you have to do is deal with the voting system and things of that nature, and how algorithms deal with those systems, and how votes are counted and things of that nature in certain areas. You can look at dealing with the prison system as far as bail and things of that nature, and how that is being dictated through algorithms and technology, which pulls up a person's file or dossier, meaning where do they come from, what's their historical background, do they have a criminal past, do they have an educational history, do they have a job or career history, all those different things, which are now being what's made making the decision for if a person should get bail or not. Those type of things that obviously affect Black people.
I want to get to the calls, but let's do this. And callers, hopefully have a question. If you have a comment, make it very short. But I want to get into a little bit of Chat Chat
Yeah, let's do that.
GPT. Now, people around me, like I've used Chat GPT, and I've done some writing, and then I said, okay, clear this up for me, and it came out pretty good. So I guess that might be what you would call a positive aspect of it. But go ahead and run down the whole Chat GPT phenomenon.
All right. So first of all, what is Chat GPT? It's an operating system. It's a language model. So where do we see the first operating systems and language models, right? The words are there. The key words are there. All right. Language. All right. Operating system, a model, things of that nature. So we see the first operating systems. We go into Africa, we go into ancient times, right? So we deal with things like the Medu Neter and Kemet, or what people call Egypt. We also can deal with what's going on, the divination system, right? Of the Yoruba, the Ifa system, the Ifa literary corpus, right? Odu. So when we deal with these things, these are operating systems. When we deal with the Akan and we deal with the symbolism and things of that nature that they were dealing with, and what these symbols mean, and what these symbols represent, right? Because when you're dealing with algorithms and binary codes, you're dealing with symbols and things of that nature, ones and zeros and those type of things. We initially see ones and zeros in ancient Kemet, period. That's where we see it. That's the first notion of it. So when we deal with that, understand Medu Neter is a ancient operating system and language model, right? Now, remember what I said earlier. When you deal with AI and technology, it is mimicking an original archetypal primordial technology, all right? Now, that technology is us, or comes out of us. This is what the Medu Neter is. It's divine language. It's sacred language. It's the language of the quote unquote gods. When you deal with AI and technology, understand what it's attempting to do is something that many people don't have the ability to do, and that's tap into quote unquote God technology and God consciousness. So when we deal with the Medu Neter, that's what we're dealing with, the language of the gods. So we're dealing with anthropomorphic symbolism. We're dealing with pictograph writing. We're dealing with sound, word, power, divinity, the word of quote unquote God, the divine word, divine speech, the words of nature, all infinite forms of existence, the tongue of quote unquote God, the ma'akeru, the true of voice, all right? Of course, again, we're dealing with symbols, we're dealing with letters, we're dealing with characters, we're dealing with words, we're dealing with concepts, we're dealing with ideas, we're dealing with realities, we're dealing with truth, we're dealing with alchemy, we're dealing with science, we're dealing with processes, we're dealing with pictures, we're dealing with events, time periods, and things of that nature, esoteric and exoteric meaning. This is what we're dealing with when you deal with the metal nature. All right. Also, when we deal with the Ifa divination system, again, what are we dealing with? The very things that I just laid out for Kemet. All right. So we see this all over Africa. The Akan, what are we dealing with? The same things I just laid out with their operating systems and language models. All right. We can deal with the Dogon and Dogon cosmology. The same thing. We are dealing with the same types of operating systems and language models. So again, what is an operating system and language model? What does it entail? Now let's look at ChatGPT. What does it entail? It entails content, data, writing, narrative, stories, conversation. Isn't this what Medu Nature is? Except this conversation is with the divine. It's not with a computer. It's not with a digital phone. It's not with a ChatGPT operating system. We going straight to the source. We don't need the middleman. We don't need the artificial intelligence. We going straight to the source. All right. So that's what it's about. Now, ChatGPT, first and foremost, is learning from us. Whenever you deal with AI and technology, we are the data it's learning from. When you go to Facebook, it's the reason that Facebook asks you what's on your mind. It's getting your data. All right. That's how it's learning. So these systems, operating systems, ChatGPT, and so on and so forth, whatever other systems you're using, they're learning from us. All right. So let's be clear about it. So again, functions, answering questions, writing text, solving mathematical equations, classifying things, explaining what something does, etc., etc., etc. So again, these operating systems and language models already existed. We created them. This is why I felt it was important for me to really go down this rabbit hole and to get into this AI and technology and all these different things where I did not see us as a representation of, when you can't deal with these things and we not be a representation of. So it was a lot of conversations taking place and we weren't part of those conversations. And those conversations weren't necessarily talking about us. They were talking to us. And that's an issue. All right. That's an issue when we're not involved in that conversation and things are being defined for us. This is why I opened up and I said the definition of AI was something that I'm defining for myself, as opposed to dealing with the definition of something that is foreign to who and what I am. And I always say this, and this is in any subject that we're dealing with. In order to see anything from an African view, you cannot look through a European lens. Let's be clear. Yes, brother.
Woo. So last week we had a lot of our Nigerian listeners listening in. We're going to go to the phone calls. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah. Nigerians as well, they have Igbo. That is an operating system. That is a language model. All right. So again, all over the African continent.
And I want you to answer how is AI, because you mentioned warfare, military, and racism. So I'm sure that's being played out in Africa, AI in Africa, because you see warfare in Africa. And then after we do that, we'll go to our first callers, what's his name? AIDA from Ventura. But how is AI being used to to overthrow, or like you said, war, military, and racism? I just added racism to that. You said war and military. But then after your what you just mentioned, I said, well, that's part of racism also. So is it a part of the plan to control Africa?
Absolutely. So, okay. What people see in the media is not necessarily what they see.
What people see in the media is not necessarily what they see.
Mainstream media. I need people to understand this. So when you deal with AI, things are able to be quote unquote enhanced, changed, a lot of different things. All right. So they can literally take a person and now put that person on the screen and have a message that or propaganda that person is now saying, quote unquote, to the public, yet that person really never said what the public is listening to. So this is what we're dealing with AI and technology, and the dangers of AI and technology. So now you literally don't know if that's really what you're hearing or seeing, right? So this is very important when we talk about warfare, propaganda, all right? When you look at memes and what's taking place with memes, and I'm giving people basic examples so they can really understand what it is that we're talking about. It's much more complex things, but people probably wouldn't understand or fathom the complex things, all right? So you look at memes. There's memes going all over the internet every day with people on the memes that never said what's on the memes. You understand?
Yes.
Or people being put in places that they never were, right? So these are dangers. Again, when we talk about propaganda, media narratives, things are happening or not happening that people think is happening or not happening.
Did you hear our opening clip with Mohammed Morandi?
I did not.
Okay. Doggone it. I wanted you to comment on that. But it was about Iran and how, it's just, the whole narrative is, he's in there and he's just basically saying that it ain't what you think it is.
Yeah. Well, with AI is definitely possible.
Yeah. Let's go to our first caller. Thank you for waiting patiently. Aida? How do you pronounce your name?
It's Aida.
Aida from Ventura. Thanks for waiting. What's your question?
It was just a very quick comment, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just thank you for coming on the show. It's been very insightful. I wanted to add that one of the early forms of the internet, ARPANET, was developed as a counterinsurgency tool in Vietnam. There's a book about it called Surveillance Valley by Yasha Levine that goes into that. And as far as Palantir and Peter Thiel is one of the main people at Palantir, and he's also an advocate for transhumanism. Who he carried on a series of lectures about the Antichrist in San Francisco a few months ago. So I would check that out, and that's all I really have to add. I don't have questions, but I think what you're getting at is that this is a crisis. This is something about meaning. That it's a tool of creating meaning.
Yes.
Thanks for your comments.
Yeah, thank you. Very informative. As he said, please look those things up. I'm definitely going to go further into Palantir myself. So I appreciate the caller. Thank you for that knowledge. It's greatly appreciated.
We got a whole board full of calls, so let's get to it. Eric from LA, what's your question?
Hey, first of all, I want to say thanks a lot. This is very informative. My name is Eric, and I've been doing research on AI, artificial intelligence, such as the internet, the ARPANET, Alan Turing, and all of that. And when you go back to it, the ChatGPT is basically, we're right back at Babel. We're back at language. We're right back at Babylon. Now, what I would like to do is connect with this brother, because I bring the biomedical part of it to show how AI is actually a duplication of an atom or a cell, the human cell, the biotech part of it. And the other reason I'm interested in getting with this brother is because in 1966, my father and uncle were part of the MK Ultra program in Virginia, and they went on to become serial killers. And I did the research on what happened to them, and the narcotic farm, Alan Dulles, John Foster Dulles, the insurance company, Solomon and Cromwell out of New York, all of the different organizations that was involved, such as Brand, the United States Public Health Service, and all of that. I have the entire research. So I would probably be considered a dangerous man, because I know what they have done to our people. All the that you see in the world today is a biomedical experiment that went terribly wrong or worked incredibly perfect.
Right.
Because the same chemicals that they put my father and uncle on, which was mescaline, psilocybin, peyote, LSD, and other types of things. All of that stuff came from out of Nazi Germany. I have all of the research on it, and I'm not afraid because I recognize that I call it the inverted paradox. There's more space inside of us than there is outside of us. Every time you go into a cell, you open up one part of it, you find something else. You find a proton, electron, a neutron. You just keep finding stuff. You can never stop finding stuff within the cell. So this artificial intelligence is all about evolution and development.
Right. Well, let's do this. Let's have Sadiki Bakari. Do you have, you have a website? How can people get in touch with you?
No, people can just get in touch with me through my email. It's my name, Sadiki, Sadiki, Bakari, Bakari, Sadiki Bakari at hotmail.com. Sadiki Bakari is one word. Sadiki Bakari at hotmail.com. I'm also, you can find me on Instagram, same name. Facebook, same name as well. So that's how you can get with me. And primarily what we're talking about today is one of my latest books, Nuclear Thought. So that's how you can get the book. You get it directly through me. It's signed, all of that good stuff. So Sadiki Bakari at hotmail.com. And I love the caller and what the caller is talking about. The caller is absolutely correct. Again, this rabbit hole is very deep. So there's things that I will talk about publicly, and then there's things that I do not talk about publicly. That's really just for certain ears, so to speak. So
I guess that's how it has to be these days because it's war. It's war, military,
absolutely,
and racism. Go ahead.
I've learned from my teachers, right? Steve Coakley. For those of you not familiar with Steve Coakley, go research him. He's an ancestor now.
We've had him on here. Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
I usually supplied Steve with his cassettes. Yeah, I was dating myself.
Yes,
and
sir.
He was very cautious.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've learned very well, as well as Asha Kwesi, who is one of the greatest scholars that exist. Amiri Baraka, so the activism side of me, the organizing and things of that nature, the arts side of me. So I was able to learn a lot from Amiri Baraka, and there's many others, but those are the ones that I'll mention.
But before we get to Bruce from LA, what's the good things about AI?
The good things about AI? Well, I mean,
if there are,
the things that people already know. First of all, that's the main thing that they push to people are how AI is beneficial, how you can do, your banking from home.
How great it is. It's like
how great it is.
Great America is. How great America is, even though we're killing people, but it's great. So
yes. So that's part of the programming and the narratives that we talked about earlier, but as well as the desensitization to AI and these different technologies, which will ultimately become more of a prison for people who think that they are free. And that gets into, the smart technology, digital cities, 15-minute cities, and, all those different things that, we're going to have to deal with and we're going to have to confront. Because when you deal with those things, the reason for those things, human grids and all those different things, the reason for those things is to keep people in a certain vicinity. So when you say 15-minute cities, meaning everything that you need will be in the parameters of 15 minutes. Whoa. So they're giving you a prison based on location and geography that people don't understand. But of course, they're pushing this as Governor Newsom and all these other people here in California after the fires are now pushing it as the reimagining, so to speak. That's the issue, because the reimagining that they're reimagining is your oppression.
Bruce from LA, what you got to say?
Hi there, thank you. I just wanted to ask the author if he could spell his name again and how to get his book.
Sadiki, Sadiki, Bakari, Bakari. Sadiki Bakari at hotmail.com. You have to get it from me, not Amazon or any other place. You can only get the book from me. All right. So email me and we'll take care of it. All right.
Okay. And it's hotmail.com?
Hotmail, yes.
Okay. Okay, thanks. This is fascinating. Thank you.
Thank
Let
you, brother.
somebody else talk.
Did
Thank you.
we do we have a caller? Or did we lose that caller? Okay, we got caller. Go ahead, ask your question. And who is this? I don't see your name up. Talk to us.
Lee.
Oh, Lee. Lee. Hey, Lee.
Okay, I have two questions, and they just corroborate or say what I believed all along. Is in 1953 when the DNA said we're all the same, we're all the same people. So that said to me what I knew in my head anyhow. My question is, what color were the people who were leaving Africa, which is where we started? What color were those people when they were leaving, and why were they leaving? Why would they leave the beautiful continent of Africa?
Ooh, you get into a whole conversation, but go ahead.
So, okay, number one, the entire planet has beauty to it. Number two, the most ancient Africans that we know of, the most ancient people, humans that we know of, have many different names, but generally they're called the Twa. All right. These Africans were called the children of the sun. So wherever the sun is, that's where their children were. They were also called the seed people, meaning that they gave birth to humanity. All right. Now, these people traveled the world. Now, when we talk about this migration from Africa, that's a very difficult question. Number one, you have to talk about time periods. What period are we talking about? Because this is the problem we have with the conversation regarding history. There has to be time periods that we're dealing with. So at what time are you referring to Africans leaving the so-called continent of what's called Africa today? At what time? Are you talking about 500 years ago? Are you talking about 10,000 years ago? Are you talking about 50,000 years ago? When are you talking about? So that's a question that is pretty complex. I think that's something we need to understand. And also, again, we need to look at things beyond Western definition and Western scientific processes. The ancestors themselves were scientists. The ancestors themselves were historians. The ancestors themselves left stories, information, data, and things of that nature that dealt with history. And I don't think anyone knows our story better than we know our own story, right? So the Twa, look up the Twa, y'all. People deal with the Twa. They go by many different names: the Twa, the Ba-Twa, the Ba-Kai, the Akai, and many other names. But basically, they're the original people, the seed people, the children of the sun, all over the planet. So when you see the origins of humanity on this planet, you see people who look like this, as far as skin tone.
Wow. So let's do this. I want you. Seems like AI is the war. It's a war also on the working force.
Yes.
Because we've got two. I want to get to all our callers if we can, but I mean, it's replacing folks and just taking over.
Yes.
Do you want to comment on that?
Well, it's been happening, right? But again, when we talk about media and narratives and propaganda, once the media say it and it's all over the media, now the people are repeating it. People been losing jobs. I was doing presentations and lectures, 10 to 15 years ago about McDonald's in Europe having a all AI system, right? So no employees, no humans, all AI. This is 10, 15 years ago. So it's not something that's new. But you will see it more as AI, quote unquote, augments or advances. All right. So customer service jobs, data entry, things that's dealing with automation, like repetitive tasks and things of that nature. AI will take the place of humans in those particular types of job placement, so to speak, data entry, receptionists, manufacturing types, editors, proofreadings. You mentioned Chat GPT type of thing, journalists, writers, routine coding, web developers, that type of thing. Yes, AI will replace humans. But I mean, that's nothing to worry about. But see, this is the point of AI and technology. It takes you away from the greatest essence of yourself, which is your intuition and your imagination. That in itself is power. So what people are going to do is have to tap into those things to create whatever it is that they need to create and manifest to be able to maintain and do the things that they need to do moving forward.
Wow. We might have time for one, possibly two more callers. We got a caller on line one. We're running out of time, so hit it.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I love your presentation, and this is like a triangle to me. The other two callers were beautiful,
yes.
And more than ever, if I may call you brother, AI is already manifested in the NFL. Why do you think they had that so-called costume failure? The NFL now is controlled by gambling via AI. Thank you.
Woo. We got time for another caller. Is that it?
Yes.
I guess we have time for your last comments, Sadiki.
Well, brother, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for having me on. This is something we can continue to do if that's what you would like, if your listeners would like that. We can, because
this
it's
is
so
your
much.
home, man. This is your home.
Yes, sir. This is a very expansive topic when we talk about AI and technology. I want to thank your listeners. On point as far as their comments and their questions. And again, just thank you for doing the work that you do. So we do have an outlet to be able to talk about the things that we need to talk about from our perspective.
Out of time. That was Sadiki Bakari. Thank you so much. This is Cut to the Chase every Friday, 8 a.m. Tell your friends. Go to kpfk.org/archives to hear this show and past shows, which I feel are very informative and haven't been heard anywhere else. Did you hear the beginning of the show? Nobody heard that about Iran, that they were in the streets protesting pro-government. I'm out.
KPFK, Los Angeles.
Sixth, create to regenerate. Economic theory has long portrayed a clean environment as a luxury good, affordable only for the well-off. This view is reinforced by the environmental Kuznets curve, which once again whispered that pollution has to get worse before it can get better and growth will eventually clean it